Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Shine on Elizabeth. If you don't already know, I have some big news. I got into grad school. I don't know. It's hard because I can't see the excitement on your face, but I know it's there. This is what this video is going to be about, me sharing like the school I'm going to be going to, my process, and the next steps I'll be taking as I embark on this new journey of my life. But mostly just, I think this video is important for me to look back in the future, and also like I've been getting a lot of the same questions and I want to make sure people who are important to me know, but also other people who need to know this as a resource have access to it in the future. The first question is, where did you get accepted? The program I will be going to is Kansas State University. It's their English master's program. It's a 2-year program, and then their English program has like 5 different tracks you can take within English. Mine will be children's literature. This question is, why did you choose the program? Be aware that this is a really long section. To be honest, I started looking at graduate schools in women's gender studies because I really wanted that strong focus in feminist theory and queer theory, which is basically about like why do we know what we know and how it's connected to how we think about ourselves in race, gender, sexuality, and other identities. However, I also really wanted to connect that to childhood and the way in which we consume stories as children and continue to idolize and hold on to those stories as adults. Those stories teach us so much about the world, and yet we often don't even think about examining them. And for me, a lot of my understanding of like myself as a white passing mixed person, as well as my gender identity, has been about questioning the things around me, including the stories I've been told and the stories that I consume. And so I started off looking at women's and gender studies programs, and it sort of like evolved since I really struggled to find women's and gender studies programs that had literature and children's lit in their mentors, especially like fully funded programs as well. And I was looking specifically at like PhD programs. And there's also the barrier of applications, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But for me, like not really seeing that in the women's and gender studies field for what I was looking for of like children's literature made me move on and look a little bit deeper into the English children's literature programs. There was also the pressure of like the application deadlines. A lot of them were December 15th or December 1st. There was some time in December, and for me, I was still working. And honestly, work really pushed me from pursuing this goal of graduate school and looking into it and putting time into it, which was one of the pressures of like, this is not right for me. But that's another thing that added to my search and added to like the struggle I went through, as well as just not having time for myself. And so from that women's and gender studies search, I started to narrow down to see what do English programs and specifically children's literature focused or like rooted English programs have. And that's where I started to find like people who were doing work that I was interested in, and like work that more closely tied to my research interest. I consulted my best friend Google. Thank you, Google. I am both in awe but also scared at sometimes the predictions of those searches. But anyways, I used Google to figure out English programs that had established children's literature programs. I like narrowed down to 3 because of application deadline. This was the I narrowed down to 3 because of the application deadlines. I think this was more like the beginning of December, although I did not leave my job until like the very end of December. I think like the last or maybe like the second week of December was like my last week. And I just did not have the energy, the time to really like put time into one. So it had to be in January. So that narrowed the field a lot more when I looked into those programs from Google. Or from my Google search. Okay, there was Kansas, which is out of state. There was one in Canada. And then there was one, this is not an English program, it's a women's gender studies program, PhD, that still was open, that I thought I might apply to. But honestly, my energy level just wasn't there, and I knew I could only apply to one realistically, because of like material requirements that I just didn't have and would have to create, and I just did not have the energy to create for all of them. Both in the like statement of objectives or statement of purpose. And those objects being, one asks for like a personal statement and a statement of objectives, which are a little bit different. And then one also asks for like 10 pages, and the other one only asks for like 8. I just wasn't really sure about my capacity, so I narrowed down to Kansas because it was a little bit less and I thought I would have the energy to do it. It was the safest, being, even though it's out of state, it's not out of the country, and I knew that felt safer to me. So yeah, that's how I learned about the program, but it's because of the backtracking I did in my process that I even like started thinking about narrowing it, or else I think I would have forced my, I think it could have went 2 ways. I could have forced my research topic and research interest to a school I was interested in, or I could have like tried to connect with a professor and mentor who like research didn't really like match exactly, but their area of thinking did. So I think those are 2 ways I could have managed it, but even then I was like, I don't even know where to start to begin linking them together. And so that sort of like drove me directly to an English program and bringing my own way of thinking, rather than like driving someone else's research to like try to match with my own. What did you have to submit to apply? Okay, these are the materials I needed to apply to the English master's program. I needed to develop a statement of objectives, which was 2 to 3 pages, which goes into my research interests, why this program, and who might I work with at that university. A writing sample, which was 8 to 15. I noticed that most programs are actually 10 to 20 pages, so Kansas State was a little bit under. I also had to go back and write a writing sample and add to a piece I already had. 3 letters of recommendations from people who can talk to your experience in the perspective field, an official transcript, and then an application fee of $65. A lot of people have been asking me, where's Kansas? This is a map of the US to give you a reference. And then this is where Kansas is in comparison to Washington. Washington is where I'll be driving from, and a lot of my Washington friends have no idea. So this is just one of the 3 routes that Google gives me to show me how to get there driving. Just so you know. When do you leave? I leave in August. I have to be there at least by the 14th because I will have training, but then classes will start the 21st. And then I still have to figure out housing, if I'll live on campus or off campus in Kansas. And that would also affect when I leave. But right now, just generally August. How are you getting there? In August, I'm gonna be driving down in my car. Well, actually, I might end up getting a different car since like my car is over 15 years old and almost has 200,000 miles, and just like my family's concerned about me driving that far. But I haven't never been on a road trip more than 4 hours before, and Kansas is a total of like 24 hours, which I'll be excited for, but also nervous about because I'll be going through a couple different states, and I'm not sure how I'll break up the driving and stopping time yet. What are your plans after grad school? When I grow up, I want to explore stories. Yeah, it might sound childish, but I don't think I have one definite path that I want to take. I think that I'm hoping this program helps provide foundation to figure out what's next, whether that's going on to a PhD program with women's and gender studies, one in children's literature, none of those, and just like going into a job, or maybe not even that, maybe creating something on my own. And so I think that I really just know that this is something I need to do. I love stories, I love creating, and I love like community and being around others, and I'm really hoping this provides that. And with that, we're coming to the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and okay, I'm gonna try something new. Cheers, queers, gentle thems, and babies. Okay, until next time, goodbye.